Real quick before we get into the review, just gotta thank the people over on Patreon, because without their support, a lot of this upgraded content you see on the channel would not be possible. And I gotta say, on top of being able to respond to you guys in the DMs, you know, one of the fun things about the Patreon is every 3 months we do an anime and manga haul, and there's a lot of good goodies in that one. You also get sneak peeks at videos that haven't made their way onto the channel yet. I'm still figuring out what to do for actual YouTube memberships, so leave a suggestion down in the comment section below. But with that being said, thank you so much for all of you guys' support, and now let's get into the review. Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another review for Boruto Chapter 59. And now that Chapter 59 is done in the books, we got a lot to talk about, because this was a very information heavy chapter, but it did not actually feel like it was a long chapter. I actually got through this one pretty quick, so for my standard, this is gonna be a pretty short chapter review. Now, if you're an anime only fan, you clicked on this by accident, obviously I'm gonna be talking about spoilers. With that being said though, if you're still here, I'm assuming you're here for the Boruto manga chapter. So I gotta say, man, hands down, you can tell just off of the beginning that this is a Masashi Kishimoto creation right here, because the fact is that I would say the last 2 or 3 chapters, it's been pretty obvious in my opinion that you can tell Kishimoto's the one that's actually doing the script, because in the last few chapters you see more of the Suken boat type of comedy where you get the reactions out of Naruto and Boruto, and you see more of the verbal tics, you see more of the expressions, you're seeing more of that Kishimoto type of style in there. And in this actual chapter, there's actually a little bit of adult humor that slipped into the actual chapter, and some of it's obvious, like when you see Code and Code is checking out Ada's bottom. Obviously you have stuff like that, but there's other little small things that are kind of slipped in there that I'll talk about later on. But I gotta say, opening up with the freaking flashback, I love it. I absolutely love it, and I love how this wasn't a whole chapter's worth of a flashback, because back in the day when you would be reading Naruto, this would be essentially a whole chapter. And really, when you look at this, that whole nightmare sequence that you have with Kawaki and Amado, that's essentially what a whole Naruto chapter would have been when you add in the cover page and a couple of the other pages after that, like the cliffhanger would have been the Ada and Code stuff. But what I like here is that the flashback was very brief. However, the thing about the flashback is that there was a lot of information conveyed, and when you look at how this was handled opposed to when Kodachi incorporated flashbacks, this is far superior. Now, I'm not bagging on Kodachi as a writer. All I'm saying is that when it came to how Kishimoto wrote this, you can tell that there's a clear difference. Look at how you see the whole thing being paid off. Like in the anime, they're telling you like, oh man, you know, Code and Kawaki, there's a little bit of beef there, but we're not gonna tell you it's beef. Well, in this chapter, it builds on the line that was put in there earlier, where a few chapters ago, you find out like Code and Kawaki, there's beef. In this chapter, you see Code, and Code is using his karma against Kawaki. He's choking him out. He's talking about trying to kill the guy. You see their interactions front and center. It's not skipped over. Now compare that with when you had the Ishiki and Kaguya revelation. The whole thing was basically off screen. You saw the two of them in a panel together, and then the next thing you know, you saw Ishiki's body on the ground, and you saw him half dead trying to choke out Jigen. Everything else, the Kaguya breakdown and everything, none of that scene was shown. That's what I mean when I say there's a difference between showing and telling. Kodachi tells you what happens, Kishimoto shows you what happens. So I'm a huge fan of that flashback sequence that we had right there. Now, kind of moving on to it, I also thought it was pretty interesting in the fact that when you see Sumire, she's right there. She's right there checking on Kawaki, but also she's right there keeping an eye on Amado, because as we know, Amado is mad dirty at this point. Like every time I see Amado on the screen right now, every time I see him, I feel like I need to go take a hot bath or a hot shower or something, because when I see this dude, I just feel completely dirty because how scummy this guy is, because the whole time he's trying to get in Kawaki's head and trying to let this kid know like, yo, I can give you that karma seal, man. I know you missing that karma seal. I got that karma right here, 2 for 1, baby. What you want? You want the free base karma? Let me stop, man. Let me chill for a second, because some of you guys don't even know what that is. But I say that to say Amado is purposely grooming Kawaki to get him ready for the karma seal. And the way that he does it, he sees this opportunity when he's in there and he's like, oh yeah, so you had another dream about Code. I thought you were having a dream about Jigen and Jigen beating you. And you know, that that's kind of funny because again, it's the innuendo that's in there, because a few people that have read the Japanese raws, when they talk about the way that the kanji's put on there, the way Amado words it is Amado says like, yeah, Jigen was beating you off again in your nightmare. That's that humor that Kishi will slip in there. So I thought that was kind of hilarious. I was like, okay, so that was kind of confirmed right there. But I like how what you see here is that essentially Amado tells him like, yo, you've been interpreting this whole situation wrong. You're still Ishiki's vessel. That's never gonna change. And Kawaki just loses it at this point, and it makes complete sense. You're seeing more of the characterization of Kawaki as a character, because he's looking at it and he's like, I don't ever want to be associated with that being. Don't you understand that years of my life have been taken? Of course you understand. This ninja tech that's running through my body, you're the one that put this ninja tech in my body. Now you tell me that even though the karma seal's gone, that I'm still gonna have part of Ishiki inside of me. And Amado basically tells him, you're always gonna be 80% Osusuki. And the way that you actually got to think about it is that essentially your body is a house for Ishiki. Ishiki just happens to be dead. The karma seal was just the key to actually entering into the house. You still have Ishiki's power resonating inside of you. And what I like right here is that you get this moment to where Amado continues to pick at Kawaki and make him helpless. And what you see in this moment is there's a key element of the 48 laws of power that is being put at play. There's actually several, but I'm gonna focus on one. So one of the 48 laws of power talks about the need to make other people depend on you. And what you see right here is that Amado's telling him like, yeah, man, you know, I know you and Boruto, you guys were trying to put the karma seal on Code, but you know, because Code already has a karma, I don't think that was ever gonna work. And let's just be real for a second. Like, even if it did work, say theoretically your big brain idea actually worked and you put the karma seal, do you really think that Code would just kind of sit around and wait for the decompression process to actually work and for Boruto to rewrite Code's DNA and reincarnate inside of Code? Now, Code would probably take some drastic measures because he would hate the idea of Boruto using his body. And I was like, yo, that makes a lot of sense. I was like, that makes a lot of sense, man. Like, Code is not a freaking idiot, as we're gonna see later on in this chapter. So I like that you see that, and I like how this is where he kind of starts spinning that web of lies right here. And this is where the dependency comes in. He's like, hey, Kawaki, I know you got pretty close to the Hokage. I know you want to protect the Hokage, don't you? Well, here's the thing. You're not going to have a way to actually protect the Hokage. I don't know how strong Naruto is without having Kurama, but what I can tell you is that he's going to die if he fights Code right now, but you can actually protect the Hokage, and I can tell you how. Your body's 80% Osusuki, but you can't really tap into that power. But what if I could give you a karma seal, a scientifically created karma seal that will allow you to access that power, and you don't have to worry about Ishiki taking over your body ever again. And when that happens, you see the light switch go off in Kawaki's head, and I like how during this time, we know that Sumire is watching the whole thing, and she don't like what she's seeing. She's getting very alarmed by it, and I like that, because again, you're seeing the character of Sumire actually be useful. Like, that was one of the problems that I really felt like Kishimoto had in his previous work with Naruto. So I never read Samurai 8. Apparently Samurai 8 has a very good female character in there, but part of Kishimoto's shortfalls is when he would start bringing female characters into the main cast. They would either start off very good, like say a Tsunade, who had a very strong internal conflict. Here's the thing about that though, okay? So you're in a situation where you're seeing some of what Kishimoto failed at with the Naruto franchise, which is Sumire. I liked the character, but I was worried that she was gonna be this, oh, Boruto-kun, and turn to a little fangirl and everything. I like that what you actually see with this character is that the wheels are turning in her head, and while she does kind of make a mistake later on in the chapter and calling out Amado, she actually waits until the end of the chapter to kind of really just get in this dude's head, and you see how she's collecting information. Like, that's good characterization of the character of Sumire. So I like the art in this. I like how Amado kind of stalls for time for a little bit when he's talking to Kawaki and he's lighting up the cigarettes and everything, and he's kind of just rope-a-doping this dude into the whole process of getting the karma seal. And what he says is he gets the last word, which is very important, because essentially when you can make that last impression on somebody, you basically got them. It's the whole reason why one of the first things they do when they take you, when you go buy a car and the salesman takes you out for the drive and everything, one of the last things that the salesman does after he gets you in there, it's like, man, so how'd you like driving it? That was pretty cool, wasn't? He gets you invested. And so what Amado says is, he says like, whatever you want to do, Kawaki, is all your choice. And when you get that shot of Kawaki and he's sitting on top of Naruto's Hokage Hokage head. That's so symbolic right there, because it just shows you that this guy's willing to dabble in alien science basically to take on the Karma Seal in order to protect the Hokage, who he views like a father. I love that. I love that a whole hell of a lot, man. That was some pretty smooth writing right there. Now, moving onward though, I gotta say, when it comes to Ada and Code, we just gotta go ahead and say this, man. This man Code need to go touch some grass somewhere, but it's kind of hard out there in that winter ice zone that Boro has his whole hideout in. He can't touch some grass right now, but my man really looking thirsty at this point. And like, Bug is even looking at this dude, and Bug's like, this bitch got him 100% under control. And the thing on that is that you can tell from his expressions that Bug's like, man, I told you this girl's gonna do something like that. And what I like with the character Ada is that she knows she has Code wrapped around her finger. Like, you see her and she's leaning all over the table, and you know, she's got her butt kind of showing a little bit, and you know, Ada got the little drink going on. She's like, yeah, Code, you know, I would really like it if you would go to this part of the hideout. You would get one of my knights for me. And Ada is just talking to him, and she's like, hey, you love me, right? You promise you're not gonna kill Kawaki. And we know based on the flashback that Code and Kawaki, them two don't get along, and it's mainly Code that don't care for Kawaki. But what I like right here is that you see how you're in a situation where Ada understands the power that she has over Code, and she's using it against Code, but you also see that she's a very calculated and manipulated person. So not only can she see all things that are happening at the same time, and everything that happened before the events of the current timeline up to the point where she was actually born, but she's also very smart, and she thinks things through, and she understands people. She is very manipulative. I like that right there. That's actually a very good sign when it comes to yet another female character, because you're taking the trope of the seduction and everything, and you're kind of making it your own in this situation. So I like that right there. That's very good. That's very good. It kind of goes back to one of the core themes of Naruto, which is a ninja must learn to see past deception. Code is not a ninja, therefore he does not realize he's being deceived by Ada. I really feel like they're setting Ada up to eventually betray Code. I like this right here. This is with the character of Ada. If she does end up betraying Code, Code only has himself to blame here. And so I like how one of the things that she's saying is like, well, you know, you said that you were going to actually spare Kawaki for me, but hey, if we go after the Hokage, can you promise me that we won't let Kawaki know that I was involved in this? Otherwise, Kawaki's never gonna fall for me. So you see how she's putting her own self-interest before Code as well. So I thought that was cool. And what Ada says is like, look, man, we really need to be in a situation where we just kind of chill out. We don't need to actually make a move just yet. The Kages are looking for you. You're hot right now. There's a lot of heat on you right now. It's better if we kind of lay low, and I'll look for the right opportunity. They can't hide anything from me. When the time comes, I'll let you know. But this is what's interesting. We're in a situation where they have all those cyborgs that are in this hideout, and we don't know if Daemon is the only other one in there or if there are others. And the way Ada is actually doing this is she's also playing and using another one of the 48 laws of power, which is, again, it's another sign that Kishimoto's writing this, which is you need to make people feel like they belong to something bigger than themselves. They need to be invested. And so when Ada says, like, you're gonna be the knight that protects me, yes, that's playing on the whole affection that Code has for her, but by using that verbiage right there, Code, who already has a cult type of a mentality where he needs somebody to actually follow behind, Ada, by being like a princess, if you will, Ada's actually giving him that. I guess since Code is a simp, Ada being the queen form, she's kind of giving him exactly what he needs. She understands the type of person she's dealing with. She knows she's dealing with the fanatic, and she's taking 100% advantage of that. That's what I mean. I like this character, Ada. Now, I will say though, you know, according to the information that we got from the spoiler translations, there was a lot more swearing going on in the actual raw scans of the chapter, and it looks like Viz Media actually cleaned that up a little bit, which is to be expected. Viz has their Vizisms. Viz has been called out in the past. That's one of those things where, like, hey, you know, you just kind of got to get used to it. But what I like here is that Ada basically says, like, with my Senrigan, I'll let you know when the right time to go into Konoha is, and if we need to take off those limiters, then we'll be able to get Amado, and we can find a way to actually make Amado take the limiters off. And you're making the right choice. You don't want to fight Naruto and Sasuke at this time. But what I find interesting is that when Ada's talking, she makes a lot of references to Naruto and Kawaki's relationship to Naruto. However, the thing that she doesn't bring up is Sasuke. I really feel like, because when you look at it, Sasuke's not been in the manga. He's been referenced, but he's not been in the manga for the last couple of chapters. And we know that Kara is being looked for by the Kages. I really feel like Sasuke's one of the ones leading that charge. I really feel like that. Or Sasuke's doing something, he's running rogue, but I really feel like this is Kishimoto kind of positioning Sasuke at this point. Whether or not I'm right, we'll see in the future, but I really feel like Sasuke's absence, there's something actually to this. Now, when you get to the character of Kawaki, where you see more of Kawaki, I like how you see more of his situation, his internal struggle, because you see him, he's walking through Konoha, he's all alone and he's brooding like the eternal emo that he's kind of turned into a little bit. But what you see here is that Kawaki just gets to the point where he's so frustrated. You can tell that Amado has really worked his magic and kind of gotten under his skin a little bit and has him kind of thinking about taking the karma seal. And it gets to the point to where Shikadai comes up to him, he says like, look man, let's get you out of here because people are starting to stare. And we find out at this point that you're in a situation where people know that Kawaki's in the village, but there are a lot of rumors for why he's in the village, and you know he's got to keep a low profile basically. So I thought that was kind of cool that you kind of see that right there. And what I like too though is the fact that when it comes to people at Konoha, they're well aware of the whole situation with the Otsutsuki, and they're kind of looking at Kawaki, and that's where the rumors are there, because they're like, once this kid came into the village, that's when the Otsutsuki came. So I like that you're seeing some of the villagers kind of put two and two together, and it kind of continues that parallel of, to a lesser extent, Kawaki being a lot like Naruto, because once, according to the Itachi Midnight novel, once Danzo leaked out that Naruto was the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails, that's when a lot of the villagers started kind of treating Naruto cold and refusing to serve him, etc., etc. Well, you're seeing it here to where they're kind of giving Kawaki the cold stares, because at this point there's only rumors. There hadn't been any actual confirmation yet, because Naruto runs a tighter ship than Hiruzen ever did. So I like that you see that, and I like how when Shikadai's there kind of keeping an eye on him, I really feel like that's also a situation where Shikamaru is basically using Shikadai and using Sumire in order to, one, keep an eye on Kawaki, and then also have Sumire keep an eye on Amado. So I like that Shikamaru is kind of saying like, Naruto, I'll let you run point on this whole situation, but I'm gonna step in and put some of my own countermeasures in place as well, dog. So I like that you see that little aspect right there. And when it comes to Amado and Sumire, when they have a little back and forth, you see how Sumire is looking at Amado and she's saying like, look man, I don't like what you're doing with this whole karma thing. I don't trust you. You've acted very shady. And she kind of points out, she says like, look, you know, ever since Kawaki came back and Isshiki was confirmed to be killed, you've been acting really suspect at this point. You immediately checked to make sure that Kawaki was okay. You didn't really care about anybody else's well-being. It was just Kawaki, and now you're talking about giving him the karma seal. And essentially, when she starts throwing out all these allegations, you have that moment to where Amado tries to kind of twist the situation around a little bit and avoid answering, and then that's when Sumire says, you need to start answering my questions. And then that's when he really just kind of flips the subject on her and says like, yo, you're the one who want to be my assistant. Are you doing this because of Shikamaru? And at this point, you really start seeing how Sumire makes the novice mistake of really putting all her cards on the table at this point. She says like, look, you know, you talk about all this stuff about the Otsutsuki DNA, and you talk about how you can actually help Kawaki. What's your real goal? Why do you want to reconstruct Kawaki's karma seal? And what you end up seeing is that essentially Amado says, well, he'll be a good weapon. He'll be a good soldier. And that's interesting right there, because you're in a situation where Amado is kind of framing everything in a way to where he's like, yeah, I could make a soldier, and Kawaki, I guess in theory, could be used to help protect Konoha. He doesn't say in theory, he just kind of refers to karma seal as being an actual weapon, but he doesn't actually refer to it as a weapon that could be used to protect Konoha. And he keeps focusing on the imminent threat, obviously being Code and potentially Eida, even though he doesn't know Eida's out. That's why I use the word potentially. But what you see right here is that he doesn't give you his true reasons. He doesn't give you his true reasons for wanting to actually reconstruct Kawaki's karma seal. And that's when you get the whole thing of Amado's glasses kind of just being drawn in a way that seem a little funky, and just the way that the faces and the actual reactions look. That's very interesting right there, that, you know, they're continuing to tease Amado as being somebody with ulterior motives. Now, when it comes to Daemon, I gotta say, I love this little kid. So after actually seeing the artwork, I said when I covered the spoilers, said I thought this kid might be 10 years old like Himawari. I actually think he might be a little closer to Boruto's age. So Boruto right now is 12 going on 13 right now in the manga. I think he's closer to Boruto's age. I just think he's a little shorter. But what you see right here is that essentially Eida refers to him as being the only thing besides Sasuke that could actually kill me. And what you see right here is that they go to the pod and you see how Code actually releases Daemon. And Daemon, after all this stuff we heard about Code being dangerous, Daemon, the way that he actually does this is the kid jumps on Code's back and starts riding him like a freaking horse. He's basically saying, giddy up, baby, giddy up. And you know, what I like here is the fact that you're in a situation where his appearance definitely mirrors Eida. So you can tell that they're related. But what you see right here is that, you know, he looks over at Code and he says like, oh, are you my big sister's newest play toy? And you just kind of see it right there where Code's like, man, I would love to go balls deep in your sister, but you know, she likes Kawaki instead. And like, what I like right here is that, you know, Code begins to attack Daemon, and that's when Eida says like, that's a bad idea. Then that's when we find out this kid is absolutely broken. The kid basically has Meliodas from Seven Deadly Sins full counter, because when Boro's men show up and talk about you're about to start coming with us, essentially we start seeing heads getting split, we see heads rolling, we see bodies all over the place, and this kid Daemon is just posing while he's doing so. This kid is a whole troll. I love this kid. This kid has so much personality to him and he's so dangerous. That's the craziest thing about this character, is that he's so pint-sized and he's so dangerous. When I say pint-sized, I mean he's not as tall as an adult. He looks like he's about Boruto's height, but he is so dangerous, and it just kind of really shows you that this goes back to part 1 of Naruto, where Kakashi kept warning Naruto, there are kids who are younger than you, more powerful than me, more powerful than some Kages. You really need to watch yourself. And with this character, Daemon, we're watching as this character we wouldn't expect to be overpowered. He's absolutely broken. Between him, between Amado basically telling Sumire that she's a freaking idiot for exposing all of her plans to actually watch Amado and spy on him, saying that she would have got more information, she kept that information to herself. There was a lot going on in this chapter right here. This was a fun read. My chapter question to you guys, I have 2. Number 1, how do you feel about this new character Daemon, and how do you feel about this cyborg trio? What do you guys think the future plans for those characters are? And then the second question I have is, why do you really think that Amado is willing to reconstruct Kawaki's karma seal? Let me know down in the comment section below. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.